1xBet is a Cypriot-based betting website founded in 2011. If you know of this company, it's either through their legitimate advertising or through their less than kosher promotional material. At this stage, you probably know about both to some degree. They are primarily known for two things: gambling and piracy. A search for 1xBet on Sweden's naughtiest webpage will yield 22 pages of crudely filmed, invasive, advert-heavy versions of films on at the cinema at the time, bearing their name. Yes, from Avengers Infinity War on the 26th of April 2018 to Gold Dust on the 21st of April 2020, you could, if you'd had a mind to, watch films best enjoyed at the cinema, in a cinema which is noisy and dynamic, filmed nowadays more likely on cell phones, but previously on camcorders. These are known as cams, and they have always been shitty and are the worst way to experience a movie in my opinion. Then on top of the jankiness of the cam, add plenty of the aforementioned ads for Cyprus's number 1xBet. And voila, you have the pinnacle, the apex, the alpha and omega of frustrating, unenjoyable and just flat out miserable ways to consume media there is. Even if I approved of piracy, I wouldn't recommend you stream, buy or download a 1xBet cam for so many reasons. You want some? Fine, here's some. Number 1. It's normally illegal in your country. Number 2, piracy is morally bankrupt and kinda goes hand in glove with organised crime. Number 3, sites that have these links normally unsafe for your computer. Number 4, this isn't just a thinly veiled ploy by me to pad runtime. Piracy is whack, yo, don't copy that floppy. So let us consider the other side of the coin, the gambling side. I call heads. Damn, it's tails, I lose. 1xBet.com currently has a rating of 1.8 out of 5 on Trustpilot with 766 reviews as of the 15th of June 2020. And it would appear that 1xBet are just too extreme for us Brits and not radical enough for the American among you, because we can't access it. Actually, the UK and US gambling commissions revoked 1xBet's license for shady practices including advertising illegal copies of cinema current films and pirate pay-per-view sports events. Being in the UK, I can't access it. However, I, like all elite hackers, can get access to it, and boy howdy is it a betting site. You can bet sports, tables or slots and everything else including cryptocurrencies and vitamins. It's also an official presenting partner for Italy's Serie A, although you can no longer access their site from Italy, and has had previous ties to the English Premiership clubs Liverpool, Chelsea and Tottenham. So far, so regulated state-approved betting. So how does film piracy relate to betting and shady online casinos? I'm gambling you want an answer. So let's deep dive into it, shall we? Well, the simple answer is technically they're not. Their affiliates are. Though at this stage it would be hard to argue the parent company isn't aware, but little seems to have been done to stop it. So it would seem 1xBet approved unofficial sponsoring of cam releases of cinema current films are a very real thing. Previously, pirate scene groups were the source of these cams, and with the scene came standards and to a degree quality control. Failing any of these standards would cause the release to be declared a nuke, requiring a proper, which would normally be gleefully released by another scene group bragging how the nuker goofed and they had got the win. 1xBet's releases didn't apply these standards as they weren't part of the scene and the quality suffered as a result. In 2020, with the pandemic closing cinemas worldwide, movie studios are using alternative methods of film distribution, with pirates going after those methods. Cam releases are on hold for the time being. But why advertise on pirate films? Well, the answer is obvious, isn't it? Yes, it's money, as it always is. Yes, there's a lot to be made pirating films, and there's a lot of customers to be had watching these films, right? Yes, and sometimes it's organised criminals that sell these, just as another illicit commodity. And sometimes it's just some bloke with a DVD burner or two. In the UK, for as long as I can remember, which is a long time, there has always been access to pirated media and sources for obtaining such. Sources like the market, the car boot sale, the pub, mailaways, your dad's dodgy mate Frank from work, and of course the internet. It would no doubt be the same no matter where you're from. We all know the badly printed labels and blank DVDRs with titles scrawled in Sharpie. Well, for the last 2 years, those were coming from 1xBet sponsored releases. Obviously, the market for these pirate copies is a large one, and the majority of that market are the poor and disadvantaged, and sometimes children. People whom companies like 1xBet see as potential exploitable marks. It's unregulated and exploitative where it can be. And we're better than an unregulated market like film piracy. The two markets collide and hey presto changeo, 1xBet sponsored pirate films. What have 1xBet lost and gained from this? It's difficult to quantify in specifics in terms of money lost and earned, so I'll avoid that and talk in broader terms. Arguably, their perceived involvement in film piracy and subsequent unwillingness to change advertising practices have cut them out of large lucrative markets like the US and a lot of Europe. That would leave them looking for growth in less regulated markets, but equally profitable ones. They would have seen that growth during the height of their prominence. It's easy for me, an adequately literate, tech-savvy monkey, to sneer at the crudity of this marketing tactic and its transparency, but for less jaded and more exploitable folks, it might seem okay. Here, there's precedent with other heavily regulated industries such as alcohol and tobacco, aggressively expanding into exploitable new markets where regulations were lacking and the populace naive to the dangers these products pose to them. In conclusion, whilst it's been difficult to prove 1xBet's direct involvement in film and sport piracy, the fact that governments have shut them down and sport teams have cut ties speaks volumes. They appear to have done little to assuage governments that they will change their practices. Though the film releases seem to have dried up since April in the worldwide lockdown and closure of cinemas. Will business continue as usual when cinemas reopen? Time will tell on that. The powers that be have been slow to react, but their eventual reaction was no doubt hastened by 1xBet's seeming approval of less than kosher advertising. Even in Russia, the government has recently raised concerns about it. It conceivably won't be long before China bows to the might of pressure exerted by its large media conglomerates and the protection of their assets in relation to 1xBet, and the same for India. But will either country go to the lengths Western governments have and outright ban 1xBet? 1xBet, rightly or wrongly, have a tarnished reputation that is beyond salvage in most markets, and time will tell if their name is still going to be synonymous with film piracy when lockdown ends. What can you do? Well, you can boycott 1xBet, and don't download pirate films, you bloody savage. Well, I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and if you did, please click like, and if you want to encourage me to make more, subscribe. Until the next time, live your best life, be kind to animals, and love your fellow man. I'll see you in the next one. Monkey.